Beneath the bare maple, a Doberman mother hurled herself upward, launching a desperate leap. Her body was skin and bone, black-brown fur tangled and matted, each rib a carved line across rotten wood. She stretched, her front legs clawing at empty air, a raw, hoarse rumble tearing from her throat, eyes rimmed red and wet. Each spring was frantic and failed. She dropped back to the ground, knees buckling, then rose again, crazed as if she could tear her own flesh to reach whatever tormented her above. John looked up. His heart stopped. High on the naked branch, a tiny Doberman pup dangled from a coil of rusty wire. Its neck was cinched, a red groove raw with blood. The weak body swung with the wind, all four legs kicking in vain. Breath came ragged, broken, eyes wide with panic, emitting small, choking whines, fragile sounds that carved into the chest of anyone who heard. The mother let out a long, keening cry, an eruption that split the air like a human sob. She spun and fixed those pain-filled eyes toward the empty highway, as if screaming at the world, "Please save my child." At that moment, tires screamed over wet pavement. John Miller slammed the brakes. The SUV skidded, shuddering in the cold mist. He leaned forward, heart pounding, unable to believe what he saw. Beside him, something stranger still unfurled. Emily, his 10-year-old, who had not spoken a word since the accident 8 months before, suddenly whispered. Her voice was a trembling thing, fragile as a breeze yet clear. "Daddy, the mother's crying." John nearly let go of the wheel. His ears filled with static. He turned and saw Emily, her face pale, the hollow look that had haunted them gone for a flicker, now bright with panic. She stared at him, knuckles white on the seat, and burst, "Daddy, he's dying. Please, help him." The words knocked the breath from him. Months of silence, and now his daughter spoke. Not for herself, but for a life hanging between being and nothing. In that instant, he understood. If he turned away, it would not just be that pup who died. He would lose the chance to reclaim his daughter's soul. John yanked the door open. The wind hit him like a blade. He ran to the trunk, flung out a battered wheelchair. Hands shaking, he set Emily in it and cinched the safety belt tight. Emily clutched the arms, eyes fixed on the tree where the mother still howled. "We'll go together," John said, voice thick. Emily nodded. A light of determination, one he had not seen since before the crash, flared in her eyes. Her small, trembling finger pointed straight at the pup swinging above. John bent and pushed the wheelchair across the sodden lot. The wheels sank into mud. Grass wrapped itself around the spokes. Emily urged him on, urgency in her thin voice like a tether pulling him forward. "Faster, Daddy. Please, hurry." They were only a few steps away. The mother spun, body shaking. John braced himself for anything, ready to catch a lunge, to take a blow. But she did not attack. Instead, she collapsed, bowed low, then nuzzled Emily's thigh, a low groan escaping her, trembling like a plea. Emily shivered, reached up with the small hand and smoothed the tangled ears, whispering, "You're a good mom. Don't give up." John stood frozen. In that fragile sound, he heard an echo of his lost wife, gentle, certain, full of love. He looked up. The pup still hung, its body convulsing with each breath, a thin thread in the wind. He pulled the folding knife from his jacket. The blade flashed in the dying light. His grip tightened, his heart hammered. He knew then, this moment was more than saving a dog. It was a fight to win back Emily, and he swore with everything in him he would not fail. Beneath the bare maple, a Doberman mother hurled herself upward, launching a desperate leap. Her body was skin and bone, black-brown fur tangled and matted, each rib a carved line across rotten wood. She stretched, her front legs clawing at empty air, a raw, hoarse rumble tearing from her throat, eyes rimmed red and wet. Each spring was frantic and failed. She dropped back to the ground, knees buckling, then rose again, crazed as if she could tear her own flesh to reach whatever tormented her above. John looked up. His heart stopped. High on the naked branch, a tiny Doberman pup dangled from a coil of rusty wire. Its neck was cinched, a red groove raw with blood. The weak body swung with the wind, all four legs kicking in vain. Breath came ragged, broken, eyes wide with panic, emitting small, choking whines, fragile sounds that carved into the chest of anyone who heard. The mother let out a long, keening cry, an eruption that split the air like a human sob. She spun and fixed those pain-filled eyes toward the empty highway, as if screaming at the world, "Please save my child!" At that moment, tires screamed over wet pavement. John Miller slammed the brakes. The SUV skidded, shuddering in the cold mist. He leaned forward, heart pounding, unable to believe what he saw. Beside him, something stranger still unfurled. Emily, his 10-year-old who had not spoken a word since the accident 8 months before, suddenly whispered. Her voice was a trembling thing, fragile as a breeze yet clear. "Daddy, the mother's crying." John nearly let go of the wheel, his ears filled with static. He turned and saw Emily, her face pale, the hollow look that had haunted them gone for a flicker, now bright with panic. She stared at him, knuckles white on the seat, and burst, "Daddy, he's dying. Please, help him." The words knocked the breath from him. Months of silence, and now his daughter spoke, not for herself, but for a life hanging between being and nothing. In that instant he understood. If he turned away, it would not just be that pup who died. He would lose the chance to reclaim his daughter's soul. John yanked the door open. The wind hit him like a blade. He ran to the trunk, flung out a battered wheelchair. Hands shaking, he set Emily in it and cinched the safety belt tight. Emily clutched the arms, eyes fixed on the tree where the mother still howled. "We'll go together," John said, voice thick. Emily nodded. A light of determination, one he had not seen since before the crash, flared in her eyes. Her small, trembling finger pointed straight at the pup swinging above. John bent and pushed the wheelchair across the sodden lot. The wheels sank into mud. Grass wrapped itself around the spokes. Emily urged him on, urgency in her thin voice like a tether pulling him forward. "Faster, Daddy. Please, hurry." They were only a few steps away. The mother spun, body shaking. John braced himself for anything, ready to catch a lunge, to take a blow, but she did not attack. Instead, she collapsed, bowed low, then nuzzled Emily's thigh, a low groan escaping her, trembling like a plea. Emily shivered, reached up with a small hand, and smoothed the tangled ears, whispering, "You're a good mom." "Don't give up." John stood frozen. In that fragile sound, he heard an echo of his lost wife, gentle, certain, full of love. He looked up. The pup still hung, its body convulsing with each breath, a thin thread in the wind. He pulled the folding knife from his jacket. The blade flashed in the dying light. His grip tightened, his heart hammered. He knew then, this moment was more than saving a dog. It was a fight to win back Emily, and he swore, with everything in him, he would not fail. The wind whipped harder, carrying the smell of wet grass and the chill of damp earth. John pushed the wheelchair across the boggy ground, each step dragging as if weighted with stone. The wheels sank deep, slipped in the muck, but Emily's hands gripped the armrests tight, her eyes blazing, locked on the struggling pup. "Faster, Daddy. Please, don't let him die." Her voice shook, yet it carried a strength beyond fear. It was not the cry of a frightened child. It struck like the command of a heart waking from a long coma. John drew a breath, braced every muscle, and shoved forward. Mud sprayed, wheels screeched, but at last they reached the tree. The mother Doberman heard them and spun around. Her whole body shivered, fur bristling. John froze, clutching the folded knife in his hand, ready to face her fury. But instead of lunging, she collapsed. Thin legs folded beneath her, head dropped low, and suddenly her muzzle pressed against Emily's thigh. A sound escaped, not a growl, but a sob. Emily startled, then trembled, lifting her small hand. Fingers brushed over pointed ears, slid across the cold, mud-caked fur. She whispered, voice breaking, "You're a good mom. Don't give up." John stood stricken. In that fragile murmur he heard an echo of his late wife. Once, in a hospital room, she had laid a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "No matter what, don't give up on Emily." Now their daughter was saying the same words, to a creature that had nearly lost everything. The mother raised her head, eyes glazed with tears, and locked her gaze on Emily. In that moment, John swore he saw understanding in the dog's eyes, a plea, a prayer, a love no different from a mother's. Emily leaned forward, her hand stroking the dog's head. Her tiny shoulders shook, not from fear, but from the weight of a heart rising from ruin. John looked up. The pup still dangled, breath shallow, body swaying in the wind. Each feeble kick was a frail, pleading cry. With every second, life slipped further away. His chest tightened. He knew it with absolute clarity. If he saved that pup, Emily would find her way back to life. If he failed, he would lose his final chance. He clenched the knife handle hidden in his coat. His weary eyes now burned with resolve. His whole body felt pulled out of the dark. John inhaled sharply, whispering to himself, "Hold on, both of you. I won't let you down." Emily heard. She lifted her face, eyes brimming, her voice quivering but sure. "You can do it, Daddy. You always do." The words cut into him like a blade, but a blade that gave strength. His chest heaved. In his mind was a single image, his wife, her eyes blazing in the last night he saw her alive, and now those eyes lived again, in Emily, in the desperate mother, in the pup clinging to the edge. He stepped to the trunk, gripping the cold bark. Moss made his fingers slip, but he held fast. Mud smeared his gloves. The tree scraped his skin raw, yet John climbed. Each pull was a pounding heartbeat, each shaking branch a warning it might snap. Below, Emily looked up, her hand still resting on the mother's head, whispering like a prayer. "He'll save him. He always does." The mother let out a broken howl, blending with the wind, and the gray sky seemed to tremble. And John knew this was no simple rescue. This was fate. A tiny life, a mother's bond, and his daughter's future. All of it hung on that thin wire. And he swore, with everything left in his heart, he would not let it end in despair. John clung to the trunk, his fingertips sliding over the slick moss. His heavy body felt dragged down by the weight of his past and the grip of fear. But above him, the tiny Doberman pup still hung in the wire, every second ticking like a countdown to death. Emily sat at the base, hands clenched on the armrests of her chair, eyes locked on her father's shadow. Beside her, the mother Doberman whimpered, claws raking dirt, eyes begging, "Hurry, please save my child." John climbed higher. Branches shook, wood groaned as if ready to splinter. He bit down, muscles straining, his hands bleeding as they scraped against brittle bark. Breath surged in ragged bursts, chest pounding near to rupture. Each pull was not only a fight against gravity, it was a fight against the long, dark years that had chained him. Daddy, you can do it." Emily's voice rose from below, trembling yet steady with faith. John gripped the knife inside his jacket pocket. The folding blade, once a birthday gift from his wife, had become the single weapon between life and death. He drew it out, steel flashing in the gray light. Just a few steps more. The pup thrashed weakly, eyes fading, throat rasping with harsh, broken whines. Each kick tightened the wire, blood seeping from the raw groove. John heard every rattling breath, a broken song collapsing into silence. He reached and clutched a branch. The trunk quivered beneath him, cold sweat soaking his back. He pressed the blade to the wire. Steel bit against steel, trembling at the first cut. His hand slipped, the branch shuddered, and he nearly fell. His heart seized. One slip, and it would all be over. "Hold on, Daddy! Please!" Emily's scream split the air, her tears spilling. The cry pierced him, turned into fire. He clenched his jaw and cut again. Once, twice. Each stroke is a battle. Sweat stung his eyes, bitter and hot. Then, a sound. A faint rasp from the pup's throat. It was alive. John gasped, hands shaking but relentless. One final stroke. The wire snapped. The small body dropped into his arms. He caught it tight against his chest, clutching it as though binding his own heart to its fading one. His pulse thundered, desperate to match the pup's frail rhythm. "He's alive!" John cried, his voice cracking. At the base, Emily burst into sobs, arms lifted high. "Bring him down, Daddy! Please, hurry!" John slid down the trunk, bark tearing his sleeves, nails ripping raw. Each descent felt endless, but then his boots hit soil. He fell to his knees, pressing the trembling pup to his chest, his breath wild, as if he, too, had just crawled out of death. Emily stretched out her arms, her eyes blazing through tears. John placed the pup into her lap. Its body quivered, breath ragged, but the heart still beat. Fragile, defiant. The mother rushed forward, eyes brimming. She kissed her pup's face, then licked Emily's hand, as if in thanks, as if making a vow. Emily cradled the pup to her chest, whispering through tears, "You'll be hope. You'll live." John watched, throat locked, vision blurred. And in that moment, he knew. He had not only saved a dog, he had saved his daughter's faith. He had saved her soul. The ground beneath the tree seemed to freeze. Emily clutched the pup to her chest, hope trembling in her small arms, breath shallow but still warm. The mother bowed her head, licking the wet trails on the girl's cheek, her low, choked groan braided with Emily's sobs. John knelt beside them, his rough hand trembling as he rested it on his daughter's shoulder. And for the first time in months, he felt his heartbeat match hers. But that fragile peace lasted only a heartbeat. Another sound cut through the air, cold and sharp as a blade. Footsteps. John snapped his head up. From behind the tangle of trees, a figure emerged. The man wore a shabby long coat and carried a heavy hunting rifle. His eyes were dark, his lips pulled tight in a crooked smile. "What do you think you're doing with my dogs?" His voice rasped, a metallic scrape on the air. Emily hugged Hope tighter. Her breath came in short, rapid bursts. The mother Doberman immediately planted herself between the wheelchair and the stranger, hackles raised, teeth bared, low and threatening. John hurriedly drew his daughter closer, his body coiled to shield her. "These animals have been abused," John said, voice low but steady. "Are you their owner?" The man curled a lip. There was a smugness, an uneasy arrogance in his eyes. "Yes. They're mine. Too many puppies. One less doesn't matter. That's how breeding works. The cold callousness of the statement thickened the air. Emily's eyes widened, then she spoke, small, trembling but unmistakably clear. "Why would you hang a baby?" "He wanted to live." "You're cruel." Her words fell like a knife through the hush. The man flinched. His hands tightened on the rifle, but his gaze faltered, unable to meet the pure, blunt stare of a child. John watched, heart pounding. He knew that a single wrong move could turn that gun into a grim end. He stepped forward, placing himself squarely between Emily and the threat. "Put the gun down," John said, low and certain. "You've done enough damage." The man, Victor Hale, fingers trembling on the trigger, raised his voice, as if to drown out the tremor in his own hands. "You don't understand. These dogs are mine. I decide what happens to them." The mother snapped and snarled, a raw, furious sound, standing firm before the wheelchair. Emily no longer wept. Anger lit her eyes. She hugged Hope hard and uttered, like a vow to the world, "You tried to kill him, but you won't win. Not today." Victor's face blanched. His hand shook on the rifle. John saw it, felt a surge of fear braided with fury. The air constricted. Each second stretched like a lifetime. Wind stirred metal and leaves. John heard his heart hammering in his ears, matching Emily's quick breaths. In his daughter's gaze, he saw something he had not seen in 8 months, a hard, rising strength. In that moment, John understood. The man before them was not merely a threat to the dogs. He was the living emblem of all the darkness that had shadowed his and Emily's lives these long months. The mother bristled and stepped forward, poised to strike at the barrel. Emily tightened her hold on Hope, lifted her chin, and spoke into the hush. "You won't take him. He belongs with us now." Victor curled his lip again, but his hand trembled harder. His face twitched. His eyes betrayed a wavering. The gray sky above pressed down, heavy as if a storm might break. John knew the decisive moment had come. The siren wailed through the cold fog, each pulse sharper, closer, tearing into the heavy silence. Victor Hale jerked his head, eyes darting for escape. His hand clenched the rifle, trembling, his whole body locked rigid. From the road, red and blue lights flashed through the dim evening, spilling across the mud. 2 cruisers skidded to a stop. Doors flew open. Boots struck pavement, hard, decisive. "Victor Hale, drop the weapon now." The shout rang out, echoing inside John's chest. Victor spun, face drained of blood. He swung the rifle weakly, clinging to the last scrap of control. But his hand shook, the barrel wavering. John spread his arms, standing in front of the wheelchair, eyes locked on him. "It's over, Victor. Enough." The mother Doberman snarled, stepping forward, teeth flashing white. Emily hugged Hope to her chest, her eyes wet but steady. She wasn't crying anymore. In her gaze burned a small, defiant flame, staring straight into the face of the man who had shattered her family. "You killed my mom," Emily said, voice breaking but firm. "And you almost killed him too. You can't hurt us anymore." Victor staggered back. Her words shredded the mask he wore. His eyes reddened, his lips trembled. Then, as if strength drained from his body, the rifle slipped from his hands and thudded into the mud. In that instant, the sky seemed to exhale. Officers surged forward, driving Victor to the ground. The clink of steel cuffs snapped through the clearing. Face pressed into the muck, breath ragged, his eyes went hollow. Years of hiding, years of running, all ended here, beneath a tree, before the very lives he had tried to destroy. John sank to his knees, breath ragged. Rage, grief, hatred, all of it collapsed into tears. He turned to Emily. She was cradling Hope, pressing the pup against her chest, whispering over and over, You'll live. You'll live. We won't let you go." The mother Doberman sank beside the wheelchair, pressing her wet muzzle into Emily's knees, trembling with a broken whine. Emily bent, stroking her gently, whispering as if to a friend, "It's okay now. You're safe. We're together." John's vision blurred. For months he had lived in hate, in shadow, in the fear of losing his daughter. And now, as justice unfolded, his tears fell not only for pain, but for something else. Emily had found her voice again, her strength, herself. An officer approached, nodding once. "We've been looking for him for months. Illegal breeding, animal cruelty, and the hit and run in March. We finally have him." John didn't answer. He only nodded, throat locked tight. Emily turned to her father, eyes glowing in the fading light. "Daddy, Mom brought us here. She wanted us to find him, and she wanted us to save Hope." Her words shook him. He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her and the trembling pup. His tears spilled into her hair, mingling with raindrops falling from the branches above. The mother rested her head on his leg, eyes closing, her breath long and spent, as if laying down a burden at last. The clearing filled with breath, with sobs, with the sacred hush of justice fulfilled. On that cold evening, as Victor Hale was led away, as hope quivered in Emily's arms, as John let his tears fall free for the first time, justice had come. Yet it carried more than punishment. It carried tears of grief, of loss, and of a fragile new beginning. That night, after the police cars vanished down the endless road, the clearing beneath the maple was left with 3 souls and 2 trembling lives. John rested his hand on his daughter's shoulder, his eyes still red. Emily held Hope tightly, a wool scarf wrapped around the pup's frail body, guarding each fragile breath as though she cradled a piece of her own soul. The mother Doberman lay close, never taking her eyes off her pup. Now and then her rough tongue brushed Emily's hand, then the trembling ears of Hope. The sight struck John with a truth too clear to ignore. Motherhood knows no species. It is a language beyond words. The next morning, the veterinarian arrived. He shook his head, voice heavy. "He's very weak." The next 24 hours will decide. Emily didn't blink. She stayed by Hope, whispering, her small hand pressed to his narrow chest. "You'll live. We need you. She needs you." John watched silently. In the nights that followed, he saw his daughter stay awake, drop by drop feeding Hope milk through a plastic syringe, wrapping him in blankets, pressing him to her chest for warmth. Every time the pup whimpered, Emily bent close and whispered, "Mom said, 'Help the weak. I'm helping you.'" The mother, whom Emily had named Grace, never strayed a step. When Emily dozed off, Grace curled around her like a shield. Each night her eyes carried the same message: gratitude. Time passed. One morning, sunlight slipped through the curtains. Hope stirred, opened his cloudy eyes, and let out a faint rasp. Emily shot upright, clutching him, her voice breaking into joy. "Daddy! He's alive! He's really alive!" John rushed over, heart hammering, tears spilling. He touched the pup's tiny chest, felt the thrum of a heartbeat like a song of resurrection. In that instant, he saw his wife, not in painful memory, but in life reborn before him. Word spread quickly. Neighbors came with food, blankets, and toys for Hope. Children gathered in the yard, eyes bright as they watched Emily wheel her chair, Grace at her side, and Hope stumbling along behind. Once, John caught Emily writing in her notebook. The page was smudged with ink, but he could still read the words. Mom left us love and hope. That means we're not alone. That means we have to help others, too. John sat beside her, unable to stop his tears. He realized tragedy doesn't vanish. Pain doesn't dissolve. But from the darkness, Emily had found something greater, the strength to turn grief into light. Winter slipped away. Spring crept back. In the yard, hope grew stronger, tail wagging, legs shaky but determined. Grace stayed by Emily's side, always moving slow enough so the wheelchair was never left behind. Each time Emily laughed, John lifted his gaze to the sky and whispered, "She's here, watching us." And in the morning light, he almost felt his wife's hand on his shoulder, whispering, "You did it." But the story didn't end there. One evening, as the three of them, a man, a girl, and 2 dogs, sat beneath the maple, Emily whispered, "Daddy, if there's one hope out there, maybe there are more. Maybe others are still waiting for us." John turned, meeting his daughter's eyes. No longer empty from loss, they now held the glow of new faith. That compassion could save not just one life, but the world. He nodded, vision blurred. The sky burned red, and maple leaves quivered in the breeze. And in that moment, the audience is left with an open question. How many lives are still out there, waiting for someone to hear their cry? The answer lies ahead. Do you hear it? The broken howl of a mother, the faint rasp of a fragile life, the sob torn from a heart thought long dead. This is not just a story of a Doberman and her pup. It is the story of us, humans who too often walk past suffering, forgetting that compassion is still alive inside our chests. Tonight, John and Emily found hope again through the cry of 2 voiceless lives. But out there, how many more eyes tremble in the dark? How many lives dangle between life and death, waiting for a hand to reach out? If you've ever saved a fragile creature, a dog, a cat, any life trembling on the edge, share your story. Because each story you tell doesn't just preserve your memory, it plants another seed of compassion in the hearts of thousands. If you believe love can make miracles, leave a comment. Subscribe so none of us walk this road alone. And share this video so the howls, the cries, and the hope can travel into every corner where darkness lingers. Because sometimes, a single act, a single pause to listen, can make you the entire world to a small, trembling soul. And who knows, that soul may be the one to save your heart in return.